It's happening. We're heading into a really crazy time now. GameStop has just changed its investment policy, can now buy Bitcoin, and is on the verge of buying Bitcoin. And Michael Saylor has even confirmed the purchase. By the time you see this video, GameStop might have already accumulated Bitcoin. Let's fucking go. We don't have official confirmation yet, but it should just be a formality until GameStop announces buying Bitcoin. This is a really, really great thing for Bitcoin. And we remember I speculated about this half a year or 3/4 of a year ago or so, made videos, and people were still saying, hey, nonsense, no, it won't happen. We were among the first to speculate here whether GameStop would add Bitcoin to its balance. And indeed, exactly what we suspected back then is happening now. And GameStop has a huge cash position here, just waiting to be allocated into Bitcoin. I said it back then, and today nothing has changed. The cash position is still very, very large. Let's take a look at what this is all about. David Bailey, the advisor to Donald Trump and British Hotel, are already proclaiming. The supercycle, they say, supercycle, it's happening now. I mean, I would still be a bit cautious, but what's happening here is really intense. Max Kaiser says about this, we finally made it. GameStop will rise to $1,000. GameStop is the retail version of MicroStrategy. Definitely buy Bitcoin now, crash. The system, crash. The International Monetary Fund, and crash. Everything else that's a scam here, that's fraud, that's based on corruption. We already had the meeting here in February between Michael Saylor and here. Ryan Cohen, the CEO, here of GameStop. And back then I already reported it, but I had reported it before February, already last year. And back then there were already all the speculations. I mean, they met at Mar-a-Lago here at Donald Trump's villa. And it was already pretty clear that he would buy Bitcoin here. I believe the classic operation doesn't really work 100% anymore. So now we need a new business field here and can pump the company to the next level again. Then we officially had the announcement here that the investment policy would be changed. And yes, now it's quite clearly also, hey, now you're allowed to buy Bitcoin here, and I mean, you don't change the investment policy. If you're not going to buy Bitcoin afterward, that doesn't make any sense. And then the crazy thing happened here. This basically confirms that GameStop will buy Bitcoin here. If Michael Saylor he probably already had the insider information, maybe he did. Actually, it might have been released a bit too early, but by the time the video is online, the purchase might already be completed. That could be the case. Michael Saylor says here, welcome to the team, Ryan Cohen, GameStop, let's fucking go. And he posts the picture from back then again. So, in my estimation, this is a confirmation that Michael Saylor either has insider information or posted this too early. And maybe, yes, we will just have to wait for the official announcement. But actually, this thing is already done. GameStop will buy Bitcoin. GameStop will potentially become the next MicroStrategy on a blab level. GameStop has always been a stock to show Wall Street, hey folks, we're not going to let you fool us. There was also back then, yes, the short squeeze or a GameStop stop, where all the GameStop top army people bet against Wall Street. And now we need to look at all the facts. Why this whole thing is so drastic and why it could really pump Bitcoin forward. So here GameStop will now take over Bitcoin. That's the big headline here. There's a very, very big Twitter thread from Luke Broyles who breaks it down very well. What this means for Bitcoin. He mentions a $26 billion opportunity for GameStop and an inflow of $10 billion for Bitcoin. And an upcoming media frenzy for retail. So it could not only push GameStop, it could push Bitcoin, and it could push retail here. Here are the facts first. GameStop has a market capitalization of $11.4 billion, with $4.8 billion in cash, which are the reserves. So one could here basically do a smash buy. They could smash buy and immediately pump $4 billion into Bitcoin. They probably won't do that, but a large portion will likely flow into Bitcoin relatively soon. It continues here, 1531, 1,531, most valuable public company in the world. So it's not quite on the level of Amazon or Apple or anything like that, but it is indeed a relevant company. And everyone remembers the infamous GameStop short squeeze of 2021, and we could now be starting round 2 here. This is the big promise that Wall Street will be challenged on another level again. Let's assume they adopt Bitcoin to drive their stock price as high as possible, and therefore want to accumulate as many Bitcoins as possible. Then we have different assumptions here. First, invest $4.8 billion in Bitcoin, which you will probably do by pumping in the cash reserves. Second, raise another $2.2 billion to buy Bitcoin, either through convertible bonds, preferred shares, or debt. With preferred shares or something like that, you can raise additional capital here. Then here, the third part, average purchase price of $120,000 per Bitcoin. So this assumes that this will be the average purchase price because Bitcoin will continue to rise. Accordingly, you can no longer expect average purchase prices below $100,000. This would result in 58,333 bitcoins, with an average price of 120,000 US dollars. Because we also have to consider, if they pump 4 billion into Bitcoin, then every purchase will push the Bitcoin price forward or upward. And accordingly, it is assumed here that they will buy nearly 60,000 Bitcoins. And then, in my estimation, they must be the second or third largest Bitcoin company in the world. MicroStrategy, of course, has over 500,000 Bitcoins, but GameStop would then have nearly 60,000 Bitcoins. At a Bitcoin value of $150,000, that corresponds to 8.75 billion US dollars in Bitcoin. Here, similar to MicroStrategy, a market capitalization of 26 billion was achieved. Through these Bitcoin purchases, they could effectively increase their current stock value by 2.3 times, or about 60 US dollars per share. If you combine the short street narrative with the Bitcoin narrative, you get a massive combination of catalysts for upward momentum of the shared stock. What I meant earlier, that you can basically combine the fight against Wall Street with your own story, with the short squeeze story, and so on. You can very cleverly combine these here. If 60 US dollars per share is a justified stock price here, when you receive almost 60,000 Bitcoin at a multiple on MicroStrategy level. And we have to assume that the peak in 2021 during the big hype here at GameStop was 80 US dollars per share. So with the 60 US dollars per share, not yet, it's absolutely crazy price, but it can go much higher. The question then is, how much higher can GameStop still rise? A justified doubling to tripling of the stock price through Bitcoin is the fastest way to achieve a fivefold to tenfold increase in the price through mania. So even tenfold increases are quite possible. I think that the foundation for a huge media frenzy and Bitcoin companies is being laid. If Bitcoin rises high enough, it could even overshadow the GameStop hype of 2021. The second half of 2025 is going to be crazy. And that's also why David Bailey is here and so on, saying, hey, Supercycle, here we come. And also British Hotel keeps talking about it. I mean, I'm still a bit skeptical. There will definitely be cyclicality, in my estimation, but will we probably no longer see an 80% drawback, but maybe a 50% drawback, 40% drawback. But feel free to write your assessments in the comments below. It even goes further here, so it could become a mega story. And then it goes further where it says, hey, this just proves that the altcoin cycle is dying. The Bitcoin of the future that will reach retail are not XRP, Ethereum, ADA, but MicroStrategy, GameStop, Semler Scientific, all the derivatives that theoretically exist now at the stock level, at the subsidiary level. Here, Riot, Mara, and so on, those that are running leveraged Bitcoin strategies. And that is a very, very exciting approach. That's also what I always tell you. Hey, you can buy Bitcoin here, stop. But if you want a little more risk, if you want a little more leverage, then you don't necessarily have to get a loan or something like that. You can simply get MicroStrategy, you can get Semler Scientific, you can get Meta here. You can also, in the future, get GameStop. They're already playing the leveraged game here, and you can be part of the leverage here. That's ultra crazy. And Bitcoin, I don't know if there will be a massive altcoin cycle here, but it could actually be that the altcoin cycle is replaced here by a GameStop, by a MicroStrategy, by a Mara, by a Semler Scientific, and by a Metaplanet cycle. So I definitely find it the more interesting path here. Leveraging Bitcoin instead of going into Bitcoin here, it further states that if you want to benefit from the success of the GameStop saga without counterparty risk, you should hold Bitcoin on your own responsibility. While GameStop contains many Bitcoins, with Bitcoin engagement, you gain access to all meme stocks. So that's also what's very, very exciting here. The assessment that if you hold Bitcoin here, then you indirectly have exposure to it. MicroStrategy, GameStop, Mara, Scientific, and Meta, Planet, and so on, because all these companies also contribute to pumping Bitcoin upwards. And then you still have the self-custody, although you don't have the leverage effect. But you don't have self-custody, which is why I always tell you to get a TREZOR hardware wallet. I'll put the link in again, and you can get a TREZOR with the code Bitcoin Hotel. If you have your own hardware wallet, then you can also stop by 21 Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin completely self-sovereign with the code Bitcoin Hotel. You have many, many advantages, and you are completely self-sovereign. Simple and secure on the go, combine it with your hardware wallet. That means as soon as you buy at 21 Bitcoin, the Bitcoins go directly to your hardware wallet. You set up an auto wallet transfer, that's what it's called. And now comes the finale. It says here, I expect the volatility of Bitcoin to transition from a boom-bust cycle to a stair-step cycle, and companies will take Bitcoin's place in the boom-bust cycle. Caution is advised when gambling with registered securities. This type of demand is a Trojan horse for retail. They feel too late and too poor for Bitcoin. But due to the unit and anchor bias, they will invest in stocks and meme companies. So this is definitely going to be an extremely intense story coming our way here. And we have to be very, very excited about it. I mean, now the critics will write in the comments again. Like, wow, the Bitcoin price isn't escalating yet. Where are the Valhalla candies now? Guys, stay very chill. We are on a very, very good path. Even if we don't have the Valhalla vibes yet and aren't at new all-time highs right now. We are currently laying the foundation for new excessive price increases with the strategic Bitcoin reserve, with all the retail investors joining in, with all the leveraged Bitcoin companies, with all the people who have a Bitcoin strategy. And there are many, many more companies planning exactly this, like GameStop, but we don't know about them publicly yet. What if the day after tomorrow an Apple joins in, a MicroStrategy joins in? What if Tesla starts allowing Bitcoin purchases again? What if Tesla starts buying Bitcoin again? I mean, folks, you don't know what's going on here. People who are currently in the bear camp could be massively pulled back. And I also don't understand where the current bearish sentiment is coming from, just because the Bitcoin price is moving sideways a bit. You really need to look beyond the Bitcoin price here. It's complete nonsense to say, like, yeah, the news is completely irrelevant because it doesn't move the price. Where are the price increases now? If the price doesn't go up, then the news is irrelevant. I keep reading that in the comments, but we are looking at the whole thing in the long term. We are also looking at the whole thing from the Bitcoin perspective. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, and many people are too trapped in the fiat matrix, seeing everything only in fiat terms. I mean, in the long run, the price will always settle where it is supposed to go, but there can always be certain imbalances. It's actually the opposite of bad when people say it's not relevant news if the Bitcoin price doesn't go up. It's even the other way around. It's even better because it's an asymmetric opportunity for you. You have information that the market hasn't priced in yet. Adam Beck often talks about this. Other people in the Bitcoin space talk about it too. Many OGs simply say there is a price discrepancy here. This means the Bitcoin price should theoretically be higher than it currently is. I'll show you the crash wallet now. Today, they're not so crazy. Today, they're actually relatively chill. But here in the Sarwade, by the way, many people have asked why there is no sand here. Of course, there is sand here. This is all sand. I just often chill where there isn't sand. For example, there's no sand here. And back here, you can see sand, 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 sand. Then there's a bay here, and if you go around it, there's a lot of sand again. A Bitcoin is a Bitcoin. You're thinking in fiat terms. It's about changing your mindset, switching to Bitcoin here. A Bitcoin is a Bitcoin. We're not here to analyze the charts in the short term, but we're focused on the long term. It's about building the best, most meaningful monetary system. Think about it, folks. Peace out.